The purpose of this video is to show some basic archive navigation and tools that you will need to be able to use the archive system. And these are listed here. I'm first going to show the login process. I'm going to show you how to select menus and submenus. I'm going to discuss the process of queries and running a query. We'll discuss wildcards, what those are. Wildcards are used quite a bit to shortcut information that's provided. Going to describe both the single and multiple modes of accessing or viewing data, point out where the save button is, and then also provide you some snapshots, or at least describe the process of how Archive brings data. So to sign on, you will log in with a username and password. When you log in, you'll see a list of responsibilities. If you have more than one responsibility, you select the responsibility that fits what you're going to be doing during that particular work session. I'm going to select NCCR-TD from this drop-down list, and I'm going to select the OK button. Now you see Archive at the top has different menu options, and as I drag my cursor over the top left, you'll see that each menu option becomes selected. And then to get a drop-down, press your left mouse button, and you'll see a submenu. And some of the submenus that have little arrows here to the right have submenus. Some of them do not. So I'm going to come in here to the Items Transaction. Now we call all these individual screens transactions because where you do different things. Transactions are often used for banking or accounting, but in this case we use a transaction to perform a function, and this happens to be a transaction that we use to perform the function of getting questions. Now, to be able to get anything, you have to make a request, and in Archive, the requests are made down here in the lower right-hand corner. You see I have options: cancel query, run query, and cancel. So cancel query puts it in a state where you're not getting information, it's simply displayed. This transaction happens to start out in run query mode because it's going to ask you to put right information. So I'm going to come up here to the item title, and I'm going to enter some information in. And really, if you're going to do a search, you can do a blind search, which simply means this: you can just push run query, and the system's going to return 10,000 questions, and it'll take probably 20 or 30 minutes to pull the information out. And then you're still going to have to search for the information. So you want to be careful of just doing a blind query, which is where you're not adding information. Instead, what we can do is we can add information into any of these fields. And I'm going to come up here to the title, and I'm going to enter the title of a particular item. Now, what I've typed in is M*67*_13*. Now, the star or the asterisk is a wildcard symbol. And what that means is it simply means any letter, any character would fit that category of a wildcard. So in this case, I'm starting with the letter M, and then I've got this wildcard, which is a star, which means M plus anything. And then after whatever this exists, there's going to be a 67. So there'll be a 67 somewhere in the middle of this ID. And then there'll be another piece of information. Maybe it's another number or letter, or it could be 10, 15 letters. And then we have an underscore, a 13. And so the underscore 13 is another piece of information we're looking for. So let me press run query. And this is searching for any test item that happens to contain these pieces of information. The more wildcards you use, the slower your search will be. Wildcards at the end or the beginning are faster. But we just happen to have several nested wildcards in this particular search, and it looks like it'll take just a minute. I'll just pause the recording until it already returned. Okay, so It's returned information. You can see that the information's now been filled in, and I'll talk in another movie about how to manipulate this particular transaction. But you'll see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it says 1 of 43, just above the clock, 1 of 43. That means that there are 43 different records, and it's displaying the first one here on screen. Now, you can navigate to the next question by pressing the next button, which is up here at the top, or prior. But a quicker way, if you're searching for information, is to come up here to this button that says multiple. And what it's doing is it says display all instances, and it puts it in a mode that looks a lot more like a spreadsheet. And so now if I was looking for a particular item, I could just quickly read down here, find the item that I want, and select it. And you can see that it's the selected one because it is graded a little bit differently than the other ones. I can go back to single mode, which will then display just this single item. Certainly I can go back and forward from there. But the difference between multiple mode and single mode is simply to show you the number of questions that are displayed at one point in time. Single mode shows one question. Multiple modes shows several questions. If I make any changes, the system will recognize a change, and then you can press the save button, which is down here, and I'll do that right now. Let me go back to single mode, and I'll just put a little note here. And because I've made a change to anything, and I click save, this will now be saved as part of the information. Now, I will say one thing too, and that is, this is a database that returns information. This happens to be an active screen that shows information that exists right now. Some of these transactions, you can go from this transaction to another transaction, and when you make a change, it may not appear to have changed the information that's on your original transaction here. That's because a lot of times when the information is brought up into the database, it's like taking a snapshot. And you could go and change something on the item somewhere else, but it doesn't change what the snapshot looks like. In order to get the refreshed information, you'd have to refresh the screen, which you could do by coming up here to requery, and it will search for the same information. Whatever I searched for last time, it'll help me find that information again. And so those are the basic tools. We showed how to log in. If you needed a change, you could come back here, choose responsibilities, and log in again. We've showed top menus. We've shown where the query is located, described wildcards, saving, single multiple mode, etc.